Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And are there any declarations of pecuniary interest?
Joe
Yes,
Quinn, 8B.
okay. Reason?
I was involved in a real estate transaction on that property.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Quinn. Okay, so moved by member Green, second by member Quinn. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment agenda dated November the 9th, 2020 be adopted. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, and then would you like to do your speech? Pardon?
Did you adopt the agenda and minutes?
No, I haven't done, and I haven't done the minutes yet.
Okay.
Yeah. And moved by member Creaser, second by member Bosworth. Be it resolved, the minutes dated October 13th, 2020 be adopted and approved as circulated. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, Andrea.
Good morning and welcome, everyone. It's required that I make a few statements. Just waiting on the speakers.
I muted. I think remember last time.
Bear with us again, please.
Wait a minute now. Geez. You there?
You don't have it open.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. Okay.
No, because
They tried one.
Okay, welcome, everyone. I think we've got it now. It's required that I make a few statements and I will explain the procedure of the hearing. This electronic hearing is being held in accordance with Section 238 of the Planning Act 2001 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Members of the Committee of Adjustment present are Chair Alan Edwards, members Joe Quinn, Lisa Grogan-Green, Rob Bosenworth, and Sharon Creaser. And I can confirm that we have a quorum. The members of Township staff present are Derek Hammond, CAO, David Pink, Director of Development Services and Environmental Sustainability, Bryce Sharp, Planner 1, Rusley Crown, Planning Consultant from MHBC, Lori Forbes, Recording Secretary, Jane Sieber, Planning Technician, and myself, Andrea Glazier, and I'm the Secretary Treasurer for the Committee of Adjustment. Public input on this November 9th, 2020 agenda was invited at the following email address, planning@muskokalakes.ca. Should be noted the motions have been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite the meeting. When it is time to vote, members shall physically raise their hand until the chair has confirmed the vote. If the vote is unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded. This is not considered a recorded vote. Now we'll explain the hearing process. The planner will provide an explanation and purpose of the application, the date notice was circulated, and will present any submissions received. The planner will also provide planning staff's comments. Committee will then hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent if they wish to add any information. Please provide your name and mailing address and postal code for our records. Committee will hear from those in support of the application and those in opposition to the application. Again, please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. Committee will then hear the applicant or the applicant's agent respond to any questions or concerns raised. Committee will then have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or staff. Committee will debate the application and make a decision based on the information presented at the hearing. It must be noted the chair has a vote on each application and can participate in the discussion. There's a 20-day appeal period for the date of the decision. In the case of a minor variance application, a building permit is not available until after the appeal period and no appeals are received. When you're present at the hearing, please provide us your name and mailing address. Any presentation is limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise permitted by the committee. Please note the resolutions are automatically written in the positive to assist in completing decisions, as opposed to writing out each resolution. This does not in any way mean an application is going to be approved. And one last thing, please take down the pink sign that was posted advertising the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the first application is B 16, 17, and 20 ml. And Mr. Crown, would you like to give an explanation of that, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, good morning. Good to see you again. I'm actually going to describe the group of applications, which are B16 and 1720, application B18 and 1920, which are, again, provisional consent applications, together with application minor variance A3720, which I believe are item 7A of your agenda. These are concurrent provisional consent applications and minor variance applications submitted under the names the PSC Windermere Trust and the RWT Windermere Trust for the property known as 1352 Ross Trevor Road, Unit 8 and Unit 4. The location map for these applications is on page 24 of the committee's agenda, and the application sketches are located at pages 37, 38, and 39 of the committee's agenda. The two severance applications, B16 and B17, submitted by PSC and RWT Windermere Trust, are to create one additional lot. Severed lot 1 would support the existing dwelling, boathouse, dock, and 2 accessory sheds. And severed lot 2 would be a vacant building lot, although no development is proposed at this time. Also included in applications B16 and B17 is a proposed right-of-way for a new laneway located on severed lot 1 in favor of the proposed severed lot 2. Two related provisional consent applications, and this is B18 and 19, have been submitted by Owen Shime to grant right-of-way for a new laneway over the Shime property in favor of the two proposed severed lots, 1 and 2. Mr. Chairman, members of committee, there's also a minor variance application A3720 before you today, which requests a variance of 48 feet from the provision of section 417 of the zoning bylaw, which would limit the maximum total cumulative width of docks on proposed severed lot 1 to 75 feet, where the existing dock widths have a total length of 123 feet. Mr. Chairman, members of committee, notice of these applications was provided on October 26th in accordance with the Planning Act. The notice requirements of the Planning Act have been satisfied. Mr. Chairman, to date, we've received 2 correspondence with respect to the subject application. We have an email dated October 29th from the building department, which indicates no objections. We also have a letter dated November 3rd from the district municipality of Muskoka, which indicates it is not opposed to the applications, provided that appropriate development control techniques are applied to conserve the conifer thermal cover, deer feeding areas, and movement corridors. Mr. Chairman, you do have the detailed staff report before you in the agenda, and it's dated November 9th. The conclusions with respect to the provisional consent applications are on page 11 of the report or page 35 of the agenda. And the conclusions with respect to the minor variance application is on page 12 of the report or page 36 of the agenda. In summary, Mr. Chair, and I know I've gone on a little bit too long, Staff support the provisional consent applications as being consistent with the PPS, the District and Municipality of Muskoka official plan, the Township of Muskoka Lake official plan, and is representing proper and orderly development, subject to the conditions that are recommended in the staff report. We also support minor variance application 3720 as meeting the 4 tests of the Section 45 of the Planning Act. Mr. Chairman, as you note in the report, we've recommended a series of conditions, and we think they're reasonable and required with respect to the proposed development that's before you today. Mr. Chairman, that's my presentation, but certainly willing to answer any questions that the committee has.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crown. Is there anyone, is the applicant or applicant's agent wishing to speak on this?
There's Kelly Potter.
Okay.
I've seen that are in here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Monday. Kelly Hodder, planner with Planscape, 104 Kimberly Ave, Bracebridge, P1L1C6. Good morning. I am here today representing the applicants of the proposed severances and minor variance. First of all, thank you to staff for the report. I'd like to clarify, I think he did in his introduction, but just that we're actually proposing 2 severed lots as opposed to a severed and a retained. And I'd like to just make sure the wording in the decision reflects that. I would also like to specify that we would request site plan control be applied to severed lot 2. I don't believe it's necessary for severed lot 1 as that lot is already developed and has no proposed changes of any kind. The purpose of these applications is to create 1 new lot on Lake Rosso. The proposed lot will have 858 feet of shoreline frontage and an area of 14 acres. The proposed lot sizes far exceed the township's official plan and zoning bylaw size requirements. A scoped environmental report was completed by Beacon Environmental and determined the lot does not feature any type 1 fish habitat or habitat relating to endangered or threatened species. There are no significant wetlands, woodlands, or valley lands found. Recommendations were provided in the scoped environmental report to appropriately locate any future development on severed lot 2. To support the creation of this new lot, a right-of-way has been proposed over the neighboring lot owned by Mr. Shime. The proposed right-of-way will skirt an existing wetland that straddles severed lot 1 and Mr. Shime's property. Finally, a minor variance has been requested for severed lot 1 to recognize the shoreline structure width. The docks and boathouse were reconstructed a few years ago on a grandfathered footprint. The existing width is 37.3 meters or 122.4 feet and represents 14.3% of the shoreline width. The docks maintain the general purpose and intent of the official plan, as there are no impacts to natural features or ecological functions, and they are compatible with the character of the area. Increases to the 25% or 23 meter limit are permitted on large properties with severance potential, such as this one. In maintaining the general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw, the dock is well set back from the side yards, and as previously mentioned, represents only 14% of the straight line frontage. There are no proposed changes to the dock size, only the application is required because the lot is getting smaller. The proposal is appropriate for the site and minor in nature, as it is in keeping with the surrounding area, does not project too far into the water, and will have no impact on the extensive existing shoreline vegetation. I believe these applications represent good planning and respectfully request these applications be approved. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak on this application?
David, what about Aaron Windows? No?
That's what he wanted to speak about.
Should I bring him in?
You asked him, he didn't raise his hand. I guess he misses.
Yeah, and that, and it's somebody wishing to speak in support of this application? Or is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application?
No hands, so.
No hands? Okay, are there questions from the members? No questions?
Yep.
Oh, yes, Mr. Quinn.
Through the chair to staff, it's a little, I don't understand what the ramifications are when they've asked for a proposed, we have a severed and a severed lot as opposed to a severed and a retained. What are the ramifications or the difference that we're approving here today?
And David, would you like to answer that one, or Mr. Crown?
Mr. Chairman, I'm certainly willing to provide an opinion on that question.
Thank you.
To some extent, rose by any other name. I can tell you that municipalities use different terms for the creation of severed lots and retained lots, and sometimes calling them just severed lots as well. So to some extent, the impact or the effect of the approval, if granted, is the same regardless of what names are used and applied to the property. And to some extent, the real critical issue is what conditions the committee would apply to the severed lot 1 or the retained lot or severed lot 1 and severed lot 2, as well as the right-of-ways. So I guess to some extent, it helps to be consistent in the submission of the applications to the municipality so that the committee gets comfortable with the terminology that's used on a regular basis, but there's nothing that prohibits calling them severed lot 1 and severed lot 2.
Okay, thank you very much. Does that explain it, Mr. Quinn?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. Moved by member Bosworth, second by member Quinn. Be it resolved, consent be granted for application B 161720 ML to PSC Windermere Trust and the RWT Windermere Trust, provided the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, a registrable description deed of the severed lot, along with any required right-of-way, be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, the proposed severed lot 1 be brought into compliance with zoning bylaw through an approval of a minor variance application to recognize the width of the retained lots, docking facilities, and addressing increased setbacks for fish habitat if necessary. 3, the site plan be imposed and implemented implement the following. The recommended measures contained in the scoped environmental report prepared by Beacon Environmental dated June 5th, 2020, to establish the location of a suitable on-site envelope for proposed severed lot 2 to the satisfaction of the township. And 3, a detailed proposed development exiting existing vegetation protection areas in the manner prescribed in the application policies of the township of Muskoka Lake's official plan as it relates to the administration of site plan control for the consent agreement with the township under section 5126 of the Planning Act be entered into, whereas the owner agrees to comply with the recommended measures contained in the scoped environmental report prepared by Beacon Environmental dated June 5th, 2020. And 5, that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied with the proposed separate lots can be adequately serviced by individual on-site septic systems, and that any problems identified with any existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. And 6, the cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the newly created lot or the entire lands, whichever is less. And are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
There's 2 more resolutions.
Yeah, I realize that. And the next resolution is moved by Member Creaser, second by Member Quinn. Be it resolved that application A 3720, the PSC Windermere Trust and RWT Windermere Trust to permit the cumulative width of an existing docks on the proposed severed lot 1 be 123 feet as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision is hereby approved. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Thank you, that's approved. And the last one, moved by Member Green, second by Member Creaser. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 181920 ML. Provided the following condition is fulfilled. 1, a registrable description deed of the severed lots right of way be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied with the retained lot can adequately be serviced by individual on-site septic systems, and that any problems identified with the existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. And I guess we need some reasons.
Okay, I would say the lots are quite large, lots of shoreline. The fact that it's backed up by the Beacon Environmental Report is helpful, that they're protecting a wetland with, and being cautious about where they put the right of way. You know, the large nature of the linear feet of shore, I think is something that's important.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bothered?
Yep. And the next application is B 2020 ML, Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that's me again. As indicated, the next application is provisional consent application B 2020 submitted by under the name Marsden with respect to the subject property having a municipal address of 1099 Stephen Road. The key map is located on page 42 of the committee agenda, and the application sketch is located at page 50 of the committee agenda. As set out in the notice, the subject application is a lot addition severance application to sever a 5.45 acre portion of the Marsden property and add it to the abutting lots owned by B. Marsden and A. Grassy. The retained lot, which is currently vacant, would have an area of 6 acres. And at this point, there's no indication that there's development proposed at this time. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, notice of the application was provided on October 26th in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, and the notice requirements of the Act have been satisfied. In response to the notice, the municipality has received 2 correspondence. We have an email dated November 7th from Henry Malik requesting notice of the decision. We also have an email dated November 3rd from the District Municipality of Muskoka indicating no objections. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, you have the detailed planning report dated November 9th. It's located at page 43 of the agenda, and the conclusions are provided on page 7 of the report or page 49 of the agenda. Subject to appropriate conditions, including a minor variance, we're recommending to the committee that, in our opinion, the application confirms and is consistent with all relevant plans and policies and could be considered for approval by the committee. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation remarks, but certainly willing to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crown. And is the applicant's agent wishing to speak on this?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Trina Clark.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Trina Clark, and I'm representing the client, and I'm here from T-Square Design Studio, 167 Medora Street, Port Carling, Ontario, P0B1J0. So our client wishes to sever a portion of their property and join it to a neighboring lot to detach the existing right-of-way from their lot. This will allow the waterfront property to maintain control of the right-of-way, decreasing potential issues in the future if they ever arose. As mentioned in the report, the application is to change the common lot lines, not to create a new lot. And the Marsdens are aware that a minor variance application is required in order to recognize the deficient lot frontage and are willing to make an application in order to rectify this issue. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application, or anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? And seeing there's no one, are there questions from the members? Yes.
Just clarification, is the retained lot compliant before the severance? And that's to say, does it have more than 660 feet before the severance?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if you want me to.
Yes, please. Yep.
The retained lot is a back lot, so it will not have frontage on the lake directly. And it meets all the, it would meet all the municipalities' development standards, frontage and area.
Okay. Yes.
What was the frontage on the road of the retained lot before the severance?
You're muted. Mr. Crown, you're muted.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The member is asking me a question that I'll need to look up. You'll give me a moment.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm a little curious as to why a lot that doesn't have access on the waterway is considered a waterfront lot. That's just more informational than anything. And it seems to me that the requirement is that its minimum frontage on the road is supposed to be 660 feet. So that's why I'm asking the question.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, while I'm looking this up, I'm wondering whether the applicant can help me out.
Sorry, I'm also just trying to look up that information as well.
Mr. Chairman, just to confirm that, and again, I think I'm in the right spot. The lot frontage is 624, and that's the existing frontage of the property. And the severance, which is the lot addition, which will add the lands to the benefiting property, is, I don't believe, reducing it. So it's an existing lot frontage. And hence the minor variance is required. And I'm going to look to, I know we were dealing with this particular issue earlier last week, and I'm going to look to the Secretary Treasurer just to confirm that we had identified obviously the need for the minor variance application if this application was going to be approved.
I believe the frontage on when the retained and severed is combined is over 660 feet.
So yes, Mr. Chairman, just to confirm that the frontage.
So where I'm going on this is, I believe that right-of-ways are protected on title. Am I correct on that assumption?
Correct.
So we've got a severance here that wants to take a conforming lot and make it non-conforming. And the reason for it, the stated reason, is to protect a right that they already have. So I'm kind of questioning, why would we allow this and create a non-conforming lot for a stated legal reason that isn't necessary?
And maybe the agent can answer that, but there is a right that people have to ask.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, obviously we are reviewing and providing an opinion with respect to the application that's been submitted to the municipality. The application submitted to the municipality is reducing the frontage of the retained lot, what I'll call the back lot. In our opinion, the reduction of the frontage is sort of inconsequential to the lot's compliance with the overall development fabric and character of the area. We believe that the reduction in variance, although I'm providing an opinion on a minor variance application that has not yet been submitted, we believe that reduction is not significant in this particular case. The roadway in that area, there's significant topographical and elevation changes, and we think the retained lot is still a reasonable lot if it's created by the committee. Mr. Chairman, I'm hoping that's short enough, but certainly willing to go on further if necessary.
I see Mr. Sharp has his hand up.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I'm having some problems with my internet connection this morning, so I'm just going to try going without the live streamed video. But Mr. Member Bosworth had a question about the WR2 zoning on the backlot portion, and I just wanted to clarify that there's nothing abnormal about that. Where a lot is zoned or where it abuts a water body of a certain size, those lots are typically zoned waterfront residential WR1 through WR8, depending on the lake that they're located on. Where you have a back lot that's within the waterfront designation, typically within 500 feet of a water body, those lots are generally zoned waterfront residential WR2 or waterfront residential back lot. I hope that provides some clarity.
It does. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll read the resolution. Excuse me. Moved by member Quinn, second by member Creaser. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 2020 Marsden, provided the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, a registrable description deed of the severed lot, along with any required right-of-way, be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that a legal undertaking be submitted in order to confirm that the severed lot will merge in title to the lot is being added to upon registration of the transfer/deed. 3, that it be confirmed that the township is satisfied with the retained lot is satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, and that any problems identified with the existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. And 4, that the proposed retained lot be brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw through the approval of a minor variance application to recognize the retained lot deficient lot frontage. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And the reasons, please. Anyone have any reasons there, please?
Well, I guess it's a back lot and 20 feet off of the 66-foot minimum is not a big number.
Yeah. And very good staff report.
40 feet, I think it was. Yeah.
Very good staff report, and I think it's nice to have a ownership of a right-of-way as opposed to across somebody else's land, because it takes care of some liabilities and puts it where they should be.
Very good. Okay, and the next application is B 2120 ML Leon.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is consent application B/21/20/ML in the name of Leon. The subject property is known municipally as 20 Island Chiefs, unit number J5. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 65 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicant proposes to sever a portion of his property and add it to an abutting lot. The abutting lot is currently in the ownership of Richard Mark Byers. The application is a change in common lot lines. No new additional lots are being created. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance, and 3 submissions have been received. The first submission is by the District Municipality of Muskoka's Planning and Economic Development Department, and the district has no objections and has requested to be notified of committee's decision. That is signed by Cassidy Fior, District Planner. The second submission is by Neil Donald, the township's chief building official, and Mr. Donald has no Ontario Building Code objections. The third submission is by the township's Public Works Department, and the department has no objections. I have prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration, and if committee is considering approval of the application, staff have recommended that it be approved subject to standard conditions of consent. I have no further comments at this time, and I would be happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. And just, I'd like to, at this time, since you're on there, to congratulate you for being the new manager of planning, just in case the committee didn't know. We all wish her well. And is there anyone here to speak on this?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Richard Byers.
Okay.
No, he's not good.
Click here.
Chairman Edwards, it's Richard Byers here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay, well, I'm available to answer your questions.
Okay, and we'll need your name and address and postal code, please.
Okay. My name is Richard Byers. I live at Unit 7, 1 Olive Crescent in Aurelia, postal code L3V 7 Norman 5.
Okay. And would you like to make a statement, or are you just here to answer questions?
I'm just here to answer questions. I believe the Committee of Adjustment agenda report is very thorough and accurate.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the members? No questions? Good. Moved by Member Green, second by Members Bosworth. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B2120 ML Leon, providing the following condition is fulfilled. 1, a registrable description deed of the severed lot, along with any required right-of-ways, be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that a legal undertaking be submitted in order to confirm that the severed lot will merge in title to the lot as being added to upon registration of the transfer/deeds, and that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the resultant lots is satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, and that any problems identified with the existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. And reasons, please.
Seems fairly minor. The planning report was clear. It's just a change in common lot lines.
Okay, and the next application is A 3820 Swift.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's back to me again. The next matter is, as you indicated, on variance application A38 in the name of SIFT for the property known municipally as 10 Woodruff Road, unit number 6. The location map for this application is on page 68 of the agenda, and the application sketch is on page 79 of the committee's agenda. The application is a request for relief from the requirements of section 413 of bylaw 2014-14 as amended, being the maximum height of an accessory structure. The maximum permitted height is 20 feet. The proposed garage, which is currently under construction, would have a height of 23 feet and 8 inches. And as such, a variance of 3 feet, 8 inches is requested and before the committee this morning. Notice of this application was provided on October 29th, and the notice requirements of the Planning Act have been satisfied, Mr. Chair. In response to the notice of this hearing, the township received 4 comments as follows. The letter dated November 4th from David Duncan at 1080 Unit 8 Woodruff Road, indicating support for the application and no objections. We have an email dated October 29th from Public Works indicating no objections. We have an email dated October 29th from the Building Department indicating no objections. And last, we have a letter dated November 6th from Bob Cohen at Unit 4, 1080 Woodruff Road, indicating support for the application and no objections as well. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, you do have the detailed staff planning report, and it's provided at page 69 of the committee's agenda. The analysis of the floor tests of section 45 of the Planning Act is provided on pages 9 and 10 of the report, or pages 77 and 78 of the agenda. Mr. Chairman, we have no objections with the approval of the application. In our opinion, the application meets the floor test of the Planning Act. Certainly willing to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crown. Is the applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
The owner, Jason Sift.
Okay, the owner would like to speak, so we'll bring them online.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Jason Sift, 1015 Hunt Road, POC 1HO. First off, I'd like to thank everybody for your time today. As you'll see from the drawings, the topography of this lot was very unique, and it allowed me to build a 2-floor, 4-car garage. The alternative would have been to have to build a 4-car garage, which would have all been on one level, and would have required much more coverage, but also a lot more tree cutting. In this case, all of the relief I'm requesting is actually at the bottom of the garage, which is a bit unique. And the total request is 3 foot 8 inches. Basically, this variance will allow me to not have to backfill the lower portion of the front of the garage. The other 3 sides of the garage are all around 14 feet tall, well under the 20-foot limit. Just the front side is the only place where I request the extra height, and that's so that I can have the garage doors. I have obviously talked with both of my neighbors to make sure they were part of this process, which you've gotten letters from both of them to state that they were fine with it. I've also placed the garage at the back, absolute back of my lot, which you can see from the site plan, behind the 200-foot line. Yeah, if you guys have any other questions, I'm here to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much. I have to ask, is there anyone else wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application? Seeing none, are there questions from the members? Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
I'm curious, what is the height of each of the floors in the requested 2-story garage?
Just 1 second. Let me just open up a larger set of plans here. The upper floor is 9'1". The lower floor is 10'4". Please remember the floor joist system that has to go between those to carry a car is about 14 inches. So the lower level will end up being about 8 feet tall and the upper 9. You'll see from my plans that it's a 212 pitched roof, and that was to make the building absolutely as low as possible, having to go to flat. So I really have tried my best to make this building as small as I possibly could, while still being able to fit a car in the bottom and a car upstairs.
Yes.
Second question, why are there such extensive windows on the second floor, and why a balcony? If this is a garage, it doesn't look like a garage.
Just to be a sitting area up on the upper level. The windows are there so that you see a car through them. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It had a bunch of glass windows around the garage, so it's strictly design. And it was a movie from my childhood that I loved, so that's actually where I kind of came up with the idea for the upper level windows.
Anyone else have any questions? No. Yes.
Is this considered already built? This is a question to staff, and where I'm going is whether, because the building is effectively built, is the applicant fee doubled? Essentially, he's asking permission, not.
Do you want me to answer that quickly?
I'd
So
prefer to answer from staff.
Through you, Chair Edwards.
Yes.
I don't think that the fee would be increased. No, I think what the applicant is requesting is an increase in height above and beyond what he has been permitted through the building permit process.
Yes, Mr. Quinn.
Through the chair, if he was to fill in ground around it, he probably wouldn't have to ask for this. He would just have to bring the ground up. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
So in essence, he's making this application and leaving it probably more natural.
It's not just that, I wouldn't be able to have the garage doors. So in essence, the lower level of the garage would become a basement, which I think we can all agree we don't, I don't want either. So it just means I would lose my garage doors. So if you look at my original, if you slide to page 4 of the elevations, I provided this kind of after to Township just to try to help explain the top image of the two garages. That you'll see the two pictures of the garage. The top image is what my building plan is for now. The lower picture is what I'm applying for, and you can see there's that line there. You can see that's where I'm requesting the difference. So basically, I just have to have big windows and a basement, which I'd pretty much rather have the garage doors so I can drive a car in.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Excuse me. Moved by Member Bosworth, second by Member Green. Be it resolved that application A3020 to permit the construction of a 2-story garage that will result in a height of 23 8" as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision is hereby approved. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. The next application is A3920 Morley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Forgot reason.
Oh, sorry, yes, reason. Support from the neighbors.
Neighbor support.
Yeah,
Good
the
report.
distance from the shoreline, because otherwise I don't think I'd be approving it.
Okay. Okay, sorry, you can go ahead now.
Thank you.
After talking to me, I'm saying I'm going along with it because it's 200 feet back, because clearly the grades have been played around with. There's lots of retaining walls. The only reason I'm going for this is because of the, the distance from shore.
Thank you. Okay, now Mr. Crown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next matter before the committee this morning is minor variance application A3920 under the name Orley for the property known municipally as 1166 Marinus Road, Unit 6. Location map is at page 85 of the committee agenda, and the application sketch is at page 94 of the committee agenda. Application A3920 is a request for a minor variance of 115 square feet or 0.34% above the maximum lot coverage of all buildings within 200 feet of the high water mark of 10%. A new carport is proposed, having a size of 484 square feet. Notice of this application was provided on October 29th in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Mr. Chairman, members of committee, the notice requirements of the Act have been satisfied. In response to the notice of this hearing, the township received 4 comments as follows. We have an email dated November 3rd from Public Works indicating no objections. We have an email dated November 1st from Brock Napier at 1166 number 2 Moranis Road indicating no objections to the application. An email dated November 1st from John Dunlop at Unit 6, 1166 Moranis Road indicating support for the application. And we also have received an email dated October 29th from the building department indicating no objections to the subject application. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, you do have our detailed planning report dated November 9th at page 86 of the committee agenda. The report assesses the application in accordance with all the relevant plans and policies and the 4 tests of the Planning Act. Our conclusions with respect to the 4 tests are provided on page 8 of the report or page 93 of the agenda. Mr. Chairman, we have no objections to the approval of the application.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. And I see we have the agent. Is that right, Jane?
Hello again. My name is Trina Clark, and I'm here from T-Square Design Studio, 167 Medora Street, Port Carling, Ontario, P0B1J0. I'm here representing the client, and as mentioned, the variance requested is lot coverage within the 200-foot high water mark of 0.34%. The Morleys wish to construct a one-story carport on the property to provide covered storage for their vehicles. This will allow the cars to be contained in a structure and will reduce the overall visual impact on the property because the cars won't just be parked within the driveway. We are in agreement with the planning report and staff decision that this application is minor in nature for the following reasons. The structure is designed to be constructed with posts, not walls, which reduces the visual impact. As mentioned in the report, the structure will be located well beyond the high water mark and behind the existing dwelling, allowing the natural vegetation to dominate the shoreline. The location of the proposed carport will be within an existing cleared driveway, which eliminates the need to disturb the land or remove trees. And the structure is in compliance with all the other zoning bylaw requirements with the setbacks, height, and the total lot coverage. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application? And seeing none, are there questions from the members? No? Okay, I'll read the resolution. Oh, yes, Mr. Quinn.
As my speaker.
Yeah.
In the pictures, we show the location for the proposed. We show a back of the cottage, but we don't show a picture of the existing garage. Is there a picture, or was that just missed?
Can the agent answer that?
There is currently a one-car garage on the property. It's used as a shop and storage. So this carport would provide parking for both of their vehicles. And as I said, it will eliminate the need for the cars to be parked in the driveway, which will overall kind of reduce the visual impact.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Moved by Member Quinn, second by Member Creaser, be it resolved that application A 3920 Morley to permit the construction of a carport which will result in a lot coverage of 3,526 square feet or 10.3% of the lot area 200 feet from the high water mark as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision is hereby approved. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried.
Reasons are it's neighbor approval and it's well protected from the shoreline.
Thank you. Excuse me. And the next application is A 4020 Jewett. We need your sound on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next matter, as noted, is minor variance application A 4020 submitted under the name Jewett for the property known municipally as Unit M33 on Shaw Island. The key map is located on page 100 of the committee agenda. The application sketch is provided on page 111 of the committee agenda. The application has multiple requests. Relief is requested from the requirements of section 417 and 41719 of bylaw 2014-14 with respect to shoreline structures. The application proposes a single-story boathouse addition with rooftop sun deck on an existing deck. The maximum cumulative width of a single-story boathouse is 16% of the bylaw frontage, or 56.2 feet, where 57.4 feet is proposed. A variance of 1.2 feet is requested. A sun deck is not permitted on a restricted water body, and so a variance requested is to permit that rooftop sun deck. And lastly, a maximum length of the boathouse in this location is 35 feet, where 50 feet is proposed. A variance of 15 feet is requested. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, notice of this application was provided on October 29th in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, notice requirements of the Planning Act have been satisfied. In response to the notice, the municipality has received 4 comments as follows. We have an email dated November 3rd from Public Works with no objections. An email dated October 29th from the Building Department with no objections. We have also, sorry, it was only 3 comments that were received. We also have an email dated November 6th from the agent, Heather Wilson, who has requested adjournment of the matter so the owner can reevaluate the proposal, have further discussion with staff in the municipality with respect to the nature of the relief that's been requested, including the potential for additional relief that was not included in the original notice. Mr. Chairman, there was a flurry of activity late last week and actually very early this morning with respect to this application. And we would not have objections to a deferral of this application to get that clarity that we need. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The committee has heard the request for deferral. Would you like this actually deferral then? Yes? Okay, so we're going to actually defer this. And the next application is A 4120 Strickland.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next matter is minor variance application A4120 under the name Strickland for the property known municipally as 491 Skeleton Lake. Again, the key map is provided on page 119 of the agenda and the application sketch is provided on page 128 of the agenda. The purpose of the minor variance application is a request for a variance of 7 feet from the required 15 feet for a proposed new dock and a variance of 13 feet from the required 15 feet for a proposed new boathouse. Notice of this hearing was provided on October 29th in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, The notice requirements of the Act have been satisfied. In response to the notice of this hearing, the municipality has received the following comments and correspondence. We have an email dated November 6th from Ian and Catherine Lang, who have property on Tribble Road, east of the subject property, and they fully support the application. We have an email dated November 2nd from Public Works indicating no objections. An email dated November 4th from Fred Gould at 1259 Unit 3 Tribble Road indicating his full support for the application. And we also have an email dated October 29th from the Building Department indicating no objections with the application. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, you have detailed planning report dated November 9th with respect to this application, and it's provided at page 120 of your committee agenda. The report reviews all the relevant policies and plans with respect to this application in the foretests of the Section 45 of the Planning Act. Our analysis of the four tests are provided on page 8 of the report, page 127 of the committee agenda. It is our opinion that the application meets those four tests and is appropriate and good planning for the development of the property, and as such, we have no objections to the application. Mr. Chair, I'm certainly willing to answer any questions that the committee has.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crown. Is the agent or owner?
The owner's here.
The owner, okay. Just bring the owner on then.
Yeah.
Hi. I don't know if I'm, can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi, good morning. Yes, Mr. Edwards, should I give my name and address? And
yes, please.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So it's Steve Strickland. I am the owner and my address is 2157 Highway 141 in Utterson, P0B1M0. I'm basically here to answer any questions. I think it's fairly obvious why I'm asking for this relief. But generally, in case there is a question, it's really to protect that wetland area that you see to the west. And by leaving the boathouse effectively where it is now, I think we do that. Staff had asked me to move the boathouse over 2 feet from where it currently sits, and that's what I've done. My preference would not be to do that, but you know, it was an attitude of giving something up. This is fairly a modest, I think, a fairly modest boathouse and dock system. Every part of this property is under its capacity quite significantly, so I don't see this as being a big reach for this particular property. In terms of support from the neighbors, there were many more emails of support than what Mr. Crown just read out, but we didn't send them all just because we thought it was a little bit of overkill. But I brought all my neighbors over individually, showed them what I planned to do, and overwhelmingly I had support from every single one of them. There were 5 in total that I brought over. So, and that's basically it. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer them as best I can.
Okay, and I have to ask, is there anyone here in support or opposition to this application? And seeing none, I would just like to say, it makes it so much easier when you ask all your neighbors over and see what you're doing, and they actually approve of it. Are there any questions from the neighbors? From the members? No comments? Okay. And moved by member Bottoms or second by member Quinn, be it resolved that application A 4120 Strickland to permit the construction of a new dock and boathouse with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a dock to be 8 feet from the side lot line. 2, to permit a boathouse to be 2 feet from the side lot line. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And the reasons?
Minor in nature and a very respectful consideration for the fish habitat. And
Okay. And I don't know if I missed one here or not. We've heard the other one, and I have it sitting here for Jewett. I don't think I read that. Oh, that's right. It was adjourned. That's why I couldn't figure out why I didn't have it there. Okay, thank you. And the next application is A4220 Kirkpatrick.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-42/20 in the name of Kirkpatrick. The subject property is known municipally as 1233 Dudley Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan and drawings beginning on page 145 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to construct a new single-story boat port and replace an existing dock. The maximum permitted lot coverage in the entire lot is 10% or 2,218 square feet. The proposed lot coverage on the entire lot is 10.1% or 2,240 square feet. The proposed lot coverage on the entire lot is 22 square feet over the permitted maximum. The maximum permitted lot coverage within 200 feet from the high water mark is 10% or 2,036 square feet. The proposed lot coverage within 200 feet from the high water mark is 11% or 2,240 square feet. The proposed lot coverage within 200 feet from the high water mark is 204 square feet over the permitted maximum. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance and 3 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Neil Donald, the township's chief building official, and Mr. Donald has no Ontario Building Code objections. The second submission is by the township's public works department and the department has no objections. The third submission is by Kathy and Daniel Kroll, who are immediate neighbors to the east, and they have no objections. I have prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration. If committee is considering approval of the application, staff have recommended that a site plan agreement be entered into along with securities for revegetation of the property and that a steel framed shelter/structure be removed from the property. In regard to the first condition, staff would like to emphasize that the aim will be for a substantial improvement over existing vegetative conditions on the property. I have no further comments at this time and I would be happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. And I believe the agent is waiting.
Tracy Owen.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Tracy Owen from the Drawing Board. I am agent for Stephen and Dina Kirkpatrick. Post Office Box P0B1J, or sorry, PO Box 248, Port Carling, Ontario, P0B1J0. Thank you, Bryce. That was a pretty encompassing description of the application. The owners wish to construct a boat port on their property, just asking for a little extra lot coverage. We are going with a boat port versus a boathouse just to make sure that we are protecting some views. And we're quite happy. The steel metal structure that has been referred to in the application is actually a construction tent, which is coming down this week. And the owners don't have any objection to the shoreline renaturalization. Stephen and Dina are with me today, so if you have any questions for the owners, they'd be quite happy to answer any questions. Yeah, if anything else I can answer, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Owen. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application? And seeing none, are there questions from any of the members? And seeing none, Moved by Member Creaser, second by Member Green. Be it resolved that application A 4220 Kirkpatrick to permit the construction of a boat port with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a lot coverage of 2,240 square feet or 11% within the lot area within 200 feet of the high water mark. To permit a lot coverage be 2,240 square feet or 10.1% of the entire lot. These variants are granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision, subject to the following conditions. 1, that a site plan agreement be entered into along with securities for revegetation of the property. 2, that a steel frame shelter / structure be removed. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And the reasons?
Minor in nature.
Okay.
The revegetation condition.
Substantial revegetation. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. And the next application is A 4320 Sayre.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-43/20 in the name of Sayre. The subject property is known municipally as 1055 Montgomery Drive. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan and photo beginning on page 168 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to recognize the subject property as a building lot, to construct a boat port with a rooftop sun deck, and to recognize an as-built dock. The minimum lot frontage requirement for an existing lot of record to be considered a building lot is 100 feet. The property has 93 feet of lot frontage. The variance requested is 7 feet. This variance will recognize the property as a building lot. It is noted that a variance was granted in the early 1980s to recognize the property as a building lot with 95 feet of lot frontage. The maximum permitted lot coverage within 200 feet from the high water mark is 10%, or 1,978 square feet. The proposed lot coverage within 200 feet from the high water mark is 11%, or 2,170 square feet. The requested variance is 192 square feet over the permitted maximum. The minimum side yard setback for a dock is 30 feet. The as-built dock is 27.5 feet from the westerly side lot line and 14 feet from the easterly side lot line. The variances requested are 2.5 feet and 16 feet respectively. The maximum permitted cumulative width of a dock is 25% of the bylaw frontage. In this case, the bylaw frontage is 93 feet, and therefore the maximum permitted width is 23.3 feet. The total cumulative width of the as-built dock is 38.3 feet. The variance requested is 15 feet. It is noted that the as-built dock was constructed following the issuance of a building permit in 1994. However, the permit was later revoked and the dock did not receive a final inspection. In 1994, the minimum side yard setback for a dock was 15 feet, and there was no maximum width requirement. The minimum side yard setback requirement for a boathouse with a rooftop sun deck is 45 feet. The proposed boat port is to be 38 feet from the westerly side lot line and 22 feet from the easterly side lot line. The variances requested are 7 feet and 23 feet respectively. The maximum permitted cumulative boat port width is 16% of the bylaw frontage. In this case, the bylaw frontage is 93 feet, and therefore the maximum permitted boat port width is 18 feet. The requested variance equates to 3.1 feet. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance, and 4 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Neil Donald, the township's chief building official, and Mr. Donald has no Ontario Building Code objections. The second submission is by the township's Public Works Department, and the department has no objections. The third submission is being filed by the applicants and consists of a consolidated document with correspondence from 2 immediate neighbors and 2 area landowners. Richard Brown, Brenda Weber, Jim and Josie Beach, and James Bigger provided the applicants with feedback on the proposal. The 4th submission is by Richard Brown, an area landowner, 1 lot to the west. And the submission is as follows. I, Richard Brown, at 1059 Montgomery Road, do not want this large structure built on this dock, as it will limit my view of the lake and make it dangerous for me to drive out of my dock. And that was followed up by a 2nd submission, also by Mr. Brown, at 9:24 this morning. Here's my view of the lake. It will be reduced by 30%. Building man-made structures on the lake is in general ugly and should be stopped. I have no problems with anything behind a cottage or around a cottage if I don't see it, but this definitely affects my view of the lake, and I spend 90% of my time in my boathouse. Most people are in the cottage and can't even see the lake. This will definitely reduce the value of my property by having a neighbor build an ugly man-made structure on the lake. And again, that's by Richard Brown, and he attached a photo. Unfortunately, we couldn't see the photo in the email that he sent. I have prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration. If committee is considering approval of the application, staff have recommended the site plan agreement be entered into along with securities for plantings. Staff have also considered cumulative impact, mainly of the requested variances from shoreline structure width and lot coverage requirements. The proposed boat port is intended to be white, which has raised some concerns from an adjacent landowner. If the resultant built form is a concern to committee, one option that committee may wish to consider in the case of an approval is a requirement for the boat port to be earth tone in color. This could be implemented through the recommended site plan agreement for plantings. I have no further comments at this time, and I would be happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. Is there anyone here, the owner or the agent? Okay. Okay, bring them on, please.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name is Bob Sayre. I'm the owner of the property, and my address in Toronto is 61 Belvedere Boulevard in Toronto, M8X1K5. Interesting process. As per your instructions, I solicited the input from all my neighbors, including Richard Brown. I've attached an email, which, as you can see, originally he had no problem with me building the boat port in any way whatsoever. He did make one comment originally. He did not want to see a white handrail on the boat port. He thought that wouldn't look great. I've changed all my design now to do glass rather than a handrail and pickets. It'd be pure glass across the side. This is the first time I've heard any objection to it whatsoever. Your documentation to talk to the neighbors was really good from a point of view. I solicited all their feedback, got a high level of comfort with it, and I have attached an email originally from Richard Brown and a text message that we had stating that he was okay with the boat port. More than glad to answer any questions you folks have.
Thank you very much, sir. I have to ask, is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application? Okay. We have somebody wishing to speak.
Hello there.
Yes, we need your name and address and postal code, please.
My name is Richard Brown. I'm at 1059 Montgomery.
Can you speak up a little bit? We can hardly hear you.
I'm at 1059 Montgomery Drive, POB 1JO, Port Carling, Ontario.
Okay.
So yes, at first I did talk to Bob, and he talked about doing a boat port. And initially I thought it would be okay, but after further consideration, just looking down the lake, it does affect my view of the lake. And it's just, you know, like the lake is where you're basically spending the money to be on. And I just think man-made things on the lake, you know, that are, it's just getting more and more ridiculous. And it's just, if it affects my view, it also affects the value of my cottage. So that's why I'm against this.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to pose a question to the planners. Normally your view is straight out from the property, not down the lake. Is that right?
Yes, Chair Edwards. I would direct committee's attention to page 150 in your agenda package, which includes a key plan of the subject property and the surrounding properties. And what you will notice is that the properties, the configuration of the properties and the configuration of the shoreline is such that the side lot line projections are quite perpendicular to the high water mark. And the official plan does provide some guidance in terms of what is a reasonable view from a property, and it identifies that a reasonable view is defined by the property projections as they extend over water, specifically within those projections.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm a bit confused though about the situation with a sun deck. Because my understanding is that, you know, a 45-foot setback is required due to privacy and noise attenuation for the neighbors. I'm not sure it is entirely related to view. I think it has more to do with, you know, peace of mind, noise, sound, activity on the water, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Member
I
Creaser.
have a comment. I find that the submitted drawings are not sufficient. The so-called drawings, one which is a Photoshop photo. How do you get to that sun deck? There is no indication of a stair. So the stair being the element that gets us there and will create some visual impact is not indicated on either the plan or the so-called elevation. I think we should have better standards for drawings, to tell you the truth.
Yes, Mr. Sharp.
I apologize, Chair Edwards. My screen froze there, and I actually didn't have an opportunity to hear Member Grogan Green's question or Member Creaser's input either. So I do apologize. I did catch that there was some conversation about the stairs, and my suggestion would be that perhaps the applicant could provide some feedback in that regard.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, am I okay to talk?
Yes.
The original drawings that I put together did not include the stairs. I'm sorry. My interpretation of the boat port was I'd have 4 vertical posts on each side of a boat slip and a flat top roof. The intent is to make as minimal a boat port as I possibly could to protect the boat. I solicited the input from my neighbors to the west of me. They did not want a peaked boat port roof because that would clip their view. And I know from Mr. Brown's point of view, he'd probably not want a peaked boat port roof as well. So I decided with a flat top boat port. I did not fill in the walls in any way whatsoever. I want to keep that open. So really the view, if there's any view being clipped at all, it would be not 4 vertical posts on my dock. It might be 1 vertical post at the far end of the dock, plus whatever the width of the roof is. That would be if it could impede Mr. Brown's view, that would be. The stairs, by the way, the stairs, by the way, I guess I can get an artist or an architect to fill in the stairs, but the stairs are more obviously towards the shore itself, and I can't see how that could possibly impede the view of stairs. But if necessary, delighted to get that done for you.
If I could just ask, and that on page 147, I see a peak roof on those drawings. Have I got the wrong drawings, Mr. Sharp?
Through you, Chair Edwards, I believe you do. That was for the Kirkpatrick minor variance application.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I lost my program and went back on. Sorry, I do apologize for that. Any other, yes, any other questions? Yes, Mr. Quinn.
I like the idea of a boat port better than an aquadome type structure, but because it's a boat port with a flat roof, to me, doesn't mean it has to have living space above. It could be just a flat roof. Because if we go to living space, this really, to me, is not a minor variance anymore. It's becoming bigger than that.
Is it a living space? Because you said about glass railings and that around it, so I'm assuming you want a pull-out deck on top?
No, this, if I could, Chair Edwards, this is not a living space in any way. It's just a flat top roof where we put chairs out to enjoy the view. There's no living space there. There's no roof over top of it whatsoever.
No, I realize that, but it's living space is what we're saying. It's living space because you put chairs up there and there's a rail.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes, Mr. Bonds, Member Bondsworth.
This already is an undersized lot that we have to approve as a approved building lot. My understanding is that you need 200 feet to have a boathouse, I think, on the lake. Is that correct? Bryce?
Bryce, can you answer that?
I do apologize, Chair Edwards. My computer cut out again, so if the member could repeat his questions, that would be helpful.
Is a minimum lot size 200 feet if you want to have a boathouse and 300 if you want to have a two-story boathouse?
No, the minimum lot frontage requirement for an existing lot of record is 100 feet. So provided that you comply with that requirement, you could have a single-story boathouse constructed in compliance with all of the zoning bylaw requirements, as well as, of course, complying with the minimum lot area requirement as well, which is 15,000 square feet.
Yes, Member Quinn.
Through the chair to the planning, but if you're doing living space up top or a sitting area, would that not take you to a 200+ foot lot?
No, it would not. Through you, Chair Edwards, it would not. The same standards would apply for a rooftop sun deck.
I mean, question, and then I'm looking at.
I have a question, sorry. So on a small lot, and we're supposed to have a 45-foot setback, I thought, you can correct me if I'm wrong, on both sides of a boathouse, or pardon me, a sun deck. So it would seem to me that in every case, if you're on what we might call an undersized lot or a lot of record of 100 feet or slightly less, that it would always require a variance from us. Is that correct?
Through you, Chair Edwards, I'm hesitant to speak to every case. Every situation is unique. However, I would say that generally, yes, you're correct that it would, in some cases, it can be quite difficult to comply, which is why the applicant is in part in front of us today.
Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
I think a boat port is a reasonable request. I don't think a sun deck should be allowed. And I think we should request the neighbors' request to have this painted dark tone colors, not anything but dark tone colors to help minimize the impact of the view.
This is a question for Mr. Sharp. Looking at page 169, seems to be two boat lifts there. One at the side and one in the middle. Now, the one at the side, does that not add to lot coverage as well?
Would not count towards the lot coverage, no. It would, however, count to the shoreline structure cumulative width. I don't know when that photo was taken, but I don't recall seeing that boat lift in place at the time of my site visit, but I can't say for sure.
Okay, it just moves it closer to the lot line if it's there. I'll ask the owner then, is there still a boat lift there?
Yes, there is. The boat lift's been there. We purchased this property in October 2018, and we put that boat lift in. It's a freestanding boat lift. It's one.
Yes, I see that. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments from the committee then?
Sorry, sir. Can I make one last comment?
Yes.
Understand Richard Brown and his concern. First of all, I would paint the building. I wouldn't even paint the building. I'll just keep it natural wood, which I think is what everybody wants anyway. Secondly, with his initial concern about the rail, the aluminum rail across the top of the boat port for a handrail and pickets, I would do glass all across the top, so he wouldn't be looking at that. Thirdly, as we all know, I'm not going to fill it in. There's not going to be any walls. It's just going to be 4 posts on either side of a roof, of a flat top roof. I tried to configure this to the best of my ability with the bare bone minimum size of a boat port to fit my boat. And I can't think of anything else I could add to that. It's just very simple. It's just a boat port to protect my boat, and leave it to you for your kind consideration.
Yes, Mr. Sharp. Yes, Mr. Sharp. I think you're frozen there, Bryce.
Through you,
No,
Chair
sorry.
Edward, I just wanted to touch base in regard to the boat lift. If I heard correctly, the applicant had indicated that it was installed in 2018. It hasn't been included in the shoreline structure cumulative width that was circulated as part of the public notice, so it would cause the dock width to increase beyond what has been proposed. So committee may wish to require that boat lift to be removed if they're considering approval of the application, and that would be done as a added condition.
It's either that or we can actually defer this and let the owner and that come in and talk to the planning department and just see what is actually required. At this point, Mr. Brown, I'm sorry. We are in actually committee discussion at this point. What would the committee like to see? Because like I say, the measurements do change on that. Yes, Member Bonsworth.
Chair, I will not support this application in its current form. I think, as Member Quinn has pointed out, this is perhaps even approaching a minor variance because you've got, because of the sun deck is creating some pretty significant requests. So I would suggest if they want to have a chance of my vote, then they should postpone and come back with a better proposal.
Yes, Member Quinn.
You know what? I think it needs to go back and be resubmitted with the proper measurements. I would support a boat port, but I'm not going to support it with the living space. I don't think it's minor.
Anyone else like to comment?
Yeah, I feel the same way as Member Bosenworth and Quinn. I really would not support a sun deck on a property like this in such close proximity to a neighbor who doesn't like it.
I'm just going to ask the applicant, would you actually like this deferred? Then you can, and not work it out. It looks like it will fail. And then you would have to reapply and there would be a cost involved in it.
Yeah, let's defer it, Chair Edwards.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So this will be actually deferred. Thank you. And I think, would staff like a comfort break? So we're going to take a 10-minute comfort break. Thank you. That one with the, it looks like a funky with all the glass windows that 4-car garage. Is there any way to flag that with the building department that doesn't get?
We can let them know. I mean, I think they see those pretty quickly too. There's not much. I mean, they can put remarks on the face of the permit that it's storage only or garage only. That's the best they can do.
Yeah. Okay. No, but and that when they're doing final inspections, as far as roughly like for like they get 220 for a stove or
Yeah, no, I'll mention it to them.
But it sure, that's a fancy garage.
Although I see his point, if he actually has garage doors on the top, it's one fancy garage, but.
Yeah. What about that last one?
It was a tough one. I know Bryce struggled with it a bit, but it's the same old thing. Those own official plans.
Well, I know
These are reviews.
You may want to turn your mics on.
We're just waiting for the secretary treasurer and then we're all set. Okay. Jane, would you like to start the program up again, please?
Ready to go.
Okay, we're ready to go? Okay, and the next application is A 4420 Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. The application minor variance A4420 is submitted under the name Clark for the property known municipally as 1140 Moranis Road, unit number 6. The key map is located at page 172 of the committee agenda, and the application sketch is shown on page 184 of the committee agenda. The application that's before you is a request for relief from the provisions of section 417 of bylaw 2014-14 as amended with respect to the requirements for shoreline structures. The first variance is for 41.5 feet to the maximum cumulative width of docks of 75 feet in order to permit the existing shoreline dock connecting the two boathouses. The second variance is 64.7 feet from the minimum front yard setback of 66 feet for an existing hot tub located 1.3 feet from the high water mark. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the notice of this application was provided on October 29th in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Mr. Chairman, the notice requirements of the Planning Act have been satisfied. In response to the notice, the township has received the following 4 comments by email dated November 4th from the Public Works Department. They indicate that they have no objections. We have an email dated October 29th from the Building Department, also indicating that they have no objections. We have an email dated September 20th from Mike and Sylvia Riley at 1140 number 4 Moranis Road, indicating they have no objections as the minor variance will have no impact on their property. We have also received an email dated September 20th from Natalie and Richard Waksberg at number 3, 1140 Moranis Road, indicating support for the application as well. Mr. Chairman, you have the detailed planning report dated November 9th at page 173 of the committee agenda. The report reviews all the relevant plans and policies with respect to the application and provides an analysis with respect to the 4 tests of the Planning Act as well. That analysis is provided on pages 10 and 11 of the report, which are pages 182 and 183 of the committee agenda. Mr. Chairman, the planning report also contains a number of site pictures that were taken during my site visit of the subject property. Mr. Chairman, in summary, staff have no objections with the minor variance application that's before you this morning. Certainly willing to answer any questions that the committee has.
Thank you very much. And that, and we have, I believe, the agent.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's bring the agent on.
Good morning. Kelly Hodder,
morning.
planner with Planscape, 104 Kimberly Ave, Bracebridge, P1L1C6. Good morning. I am here today with Bob Clark, the property owner. First of all, thank you to staff for the report. The purpose of this application before you is to recognize a walkway located between the existing boathouses. This would increase the shoreline structure width by 11 feet. A dock width of 105 feet is existing, legal non-complying. The boathouses were recently reconstructed on grandfathered footprints. The proposed walkway will meet all setbacks and only extend about 5.3 feet from the shore. In addition, the application will support a hot tub in the front yard setback. While the structure is small, only 3 feet in height, it is located 1.3 feet from the shoreline and directly behind the single-story boathouse. In my opinion, the application meets the 4 tests of a minor variance based on the following criteria. Does the proposal maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? The walkway and hot tub are in character with the surrounding properties. The proposed development is very small, and as such, neither hot tub nor walkway will dominate the shoreline. The proposed walkway and hot tub are located in an already developed rocky area with no possibility of natural vegetation growth. The hot tub is a very small accessory structure, appropriate to be located in the front yard due to its minimal impact. Official plan policies relating to shoreline structures relate to suitable construction of docks and the balance of natural and built form, which this proposal complies with. Does the proposal maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? This application will permit an additional 11 feet of shoreline structure width, specifically infilling a small portion of the area between the 2 existing boathouses with a walkway. All shoreline buffers are to remain unaffected, and both the walkway and hot tub are located centrally on the lot. As the policies regarding waterfront development aim to minimize dominance of the built form, the proposed variances meet all aspects of the bylaw, with the exception of a small increase to shoreline structure width, not large enough to be noticed by those on the lake due to the angle of the shoreline structures, and to permit a small, low-profile structure within the front yard setback. Is the proposal desirable and appropriate development? I believe the proposal is desirable and appropriate for the property, as the walkway is providing a safe path between existing structures that is not visible from the lake. The water is too shallow to provide safe docking for boats. The hot tub is made of stone to blend with the surrounding rockscape, and only about 3 feet in height. It will be connected to the nearby boathouse septic system to ensure the water is not drained into the lake. Is it minor? Considering an application's impact is one of the best indications of whether something is minor. In this application, a minor increase in shoreline structure width will not change the perception or massing of the appearance of the shoreline structures. Both walkway and hot tub comply with all side yard setbacks, providing adequate separation of uses, and as such have no impact to neighbors. Both the proposed walkway and hot tub are very small in size, have no impact to existing vegetation, and in the case of the walkway, will provide safe passage between existing structures. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I believe the application represents good planning, and I respectfully request this application be approved. I am happy to answer any questions, and I believe Bob is here as well and would like to speak after me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So we have the owner, so yes, Mr. Clark.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not in a great cell zone, so I apologize for the connection. Bob Clark, 1140 Marinas Road, Port Carling, P0B1J0. First of all, I'll start off by apologizing that we're even having to deal with this. I was actually not even aware of the hot tub situation until Neil and his team from the building department came out. I asked them to basically review the property when they were looking at the walkway and determine if there was anything else out of compliance so that I could get the property, make sure everything was either in compliance or applied for as a minor variance. And that's when I found out that the hot tub was actually not allowed in that front yard setback. I'll address that first. It was built and actually the property was final inspected with it in place, and the location was chosen because it was on a bald rock. My property has a 35-foot setback, so it would be difficult for it not to be in the front yard for me. That would mean my hot tub would be behind the building in a parking lot. So I think it's just a potentially a planning related issue, but I'm just trying to explain why it's in its current location. We removed no trees, and again, we actually sunk it. We didn't even blast rock or do anything. We sat it as low below the dock as we possibly could to minimize view from the lake. As it relates to the walkway, it's not a dock. The water there is about 6 inches deep. You couldn't put a boat in there. It was simply meant for safe passage. It was actually built for my daughter getting married. She got dressed in the 2-story boathouse and she got married on top of the flat top. So the reality is, after it was put in place, we found it extremely convenient. I have elderly in-laws that basically stayed in the 2-story boathouse and found it challenging to move around the property, between boathouses. And frankly, any other pathway to get to that other boathouse would probably involve the removal of vegetation or growth to walk across the rocks. So it's only meant as a pathway, can't be used for docking, and those are the reasons why it's there. I appreciate planning support and my neighbors' support in this matter. And we really did try to do these things to minimize impact to the waterfront. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I have to ask, is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application? I'm informed that there isn't. So is there questions from the members? Yes, Member Green.
Myself. Could we please review the rules on hot tubs? Because I vaguely recall the discussion we had at committee on another occasion, and I need a refresh on what's allowed.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm wondering whether Mr. Sharp could, I guess, respond to the committee's question, the members' question. He is much more familiar on a day-to-day basis with the zoning bylaw than I am, but certainly if he's not available, I'd be happy to provide a response.
Okay, Mr. Sharp, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair Edwards. So a hot tub is permitted. Minimum setback is 50 feet. And I believe they're permitted on an existing sun deck with a lesser setback, but that sun deck has to be legal non-complying. I'd ask Mr. Pink to jump in if he has anything to add to that.
Mr. Pink?
Good morning, committee. Just to clarify, the zoning bylaw actually prohibits docks and boathouses over water on a dock, although that's not what is proposed here. Because it's not exempt from the front yard requirements, it's subject to any, as in any other structure, a garage or a bunkie, i.e. 66 feet. However, we believe it does fall under the definition of a sun deck. So I think that's what Mr. Sharp was referring to. If it forms part of a sun deck, then it would be subject to the sun deck setbacks, which are typically 50 feet, but can be grandfathered. So in this case, the relief is from a 66-foot front yard as a standalone sun deck.
Does that answer your question, Member Green?
Yes, it does. And then I guess I want a clarification on why it is that nobody can see this walkway from the lake if it's extended if I was on the water.
So we were losing you there, Member Green.
Sorry, I just want clarification as to why this has no impact to a person looking at the cottage from the lake. I'm talking now about the walkway between the two boathouses. I'm trying to understand why this is not impactful at all from a visual point of view from the water.
And that, Mr. Brown, do you have an answer to that? Like you were on the property, I believe. Oh, you're muted.
There we go. On my site inspection of the property, it was obviously from the land side of the property. I did not do a visual inspection of the property from the lake. My opinion is that the walkway connecting the two boathouses is low in profile. It's very narrow. It's actually significantly narrower than the dock itself. Because of the angle and the sort of the close connection or the close relationship between the two boathouses, it would be, if you were passing by the boathouses in a boat, it would be a very short period for which you could actually see between the two boathouses and then see that pathway between the two boathouses. It is nestled in, if you will, to the emergent rock along the shoreline, and in my opinion, would cause very little visual impact from the lake itself.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Member Green?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Bosworth.
I wonder, through you, Chair, if we could get an idea of how many major variances and minor variances already exist on this site.
Does everyone have an answer to that?
Hi, can I be heard?
Yes.
There are no minor variances. This property had a grandfathered setback for the cottage, and the two boathouses were in existence with the current size of docks. So it has been built on, the cottage has been built to the setback, but in a new footprint. The old cottage footprint was renaturalized, and the docks and boathouses are built to exactly what was there prior. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, follow.
My understanding is that grandfathering is allowed on the existing footprint, but if you move the building, you don't get the grandfathering. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Sharp.
Through you, Chair Edwards. I'm not familiar with the specific details of the applicant's case, but there are provisions in the bylaw that allow certain expansions within certain distances from the high water mark within the 66-foot setback that would otherwise be required on a vacant lot. There are certain criteria that need to be complied with, specifically in regard to the increase in ground floor area and height. But again, I'm assuming that when the applicant applied to undertake those expansions, that the building department reviewed them against the township zoning bylaw and issued the building permit or permits on that basis.
Yes, follow.
I reviewed the district aerial maps of this site before this development went in and after that went in. The existing structure on the land is in a very significant different place than the original one, and it is a lot more than 20% larger, which I think is the allowance in the bylaw if you want to expand on existing sites. So I would suggest that there are minor variances, and some of them are quite significant. On the drawing that came with the documentation, there are some setbacks, I think, of 42 and 44 feet. The applicant has mentioned as low as, I think, 38. My point is that this site seems to be a good example of bylaw creep. And so it gets developed with a number of things that, in my opinion, on this site do not comply with the official plan. They might when they're taken cumulatively. So when I look at this application, we already have a extensively redeveloped site. Quite a bit of trees had to be removed, albeit I agree with the owner from the picture. It looks like some have been replanted. There have been increases in areas of asphalt. There is quite a bit of stone wallways along the shorelines. And I'm just trying to get my head around why 2 more variances don't push this over the limit of our official plan. Section A7, B4, and B5 all have an awful lot of language talking about how we are supposed to keep the shoreline as naturalized as possible, minimize impacts of the view from the lake, and particularly the hot tub is not located behind the boathouse. Well, I guess it might be located behind the boathouse, but based on the district's aerial map from 2018, it's fairly clearly visible from the lake. And combined with some of the stone walls, we've got, and frankly, the color of the building, most of it's dark, but all the trim is white. So the visualness of this from the lake just, in my opinion, pushes past these sections of our official plan that are supposed to be protecting the shoreline for the rest of the users of the lake. So the dock, I don't have an issue with. It is between those two boats, 2 boathouses, and they are quite close together, and clearly they were grandfathered as well. But there must have been access to the boathouse in question before the walkway went in, because those boathouses have been there a long time. So I question the need for it, but I think the dock is minor. It is the hot tub I have trouble with, because it's one more built structure. I agree that they've tried to make it blend in, but there's just too much on this site, and I have problems with it.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else like to ask a question or a comment? Have any comments? Yes, Member
Yeah,
Green.
I would just reiterate what Member Bosenworth is saying. I don't even agree with him about the dock. I feel that the applicant was already fortunate to be in a very nice grandfathered situation with a lot of extra docking over and above what would normally be allowed. And to increase his dock size further, to me, is inappropriate and contrary to what the bylaws intend. And then in terms of the hot tub, it's an impervious. I took a better look at it, and it looks like it is sitting on an area that actually has some vegetation. It didn't have to be made out of flagstone or granite rock. And it just adds to the built form and, takes away from the natural shoreline. And so I wouldn't really support either of these variances.
Anyone else like to comment?
Again, am I allowed to speak, or?
No, it's gone to committee now, Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to comment on this? Okay, I'll read the motion. Moved by Member Green, second by Member Quinn. Be it resolved that application A 4420 Clark to permit the construction of a dock which will result in a cumulative width of 116.5 feet, and to permit an as-built existing hot tub 1.3 feet from the high water mark. These variances are granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, that is actually defeated. And the reasons.
Doesn't meet the intent of the official plan.
Okay. Thank you very much.
If you want the quotes, the sections A7, B4, and B5 all have reference to protection.
Okay, thank you. And the next application is A4520 Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not only is it the next application on your agenda, I believe it's the last application on your agenda this morning. This matter is a minor variance application A4520 submitted under the name Stevens for the property known municipally as 1139 Fogo Street, unit number 2. Key map is provided on page 187 of the committee's agenda. The application sketch is provided on pages 196 and 197 of the committee agenda. The purpose of the application is a request for relief from the minimum front yard setback of 52 feet for an existing dwelling of section 413 of bylaw 2014-14. The proposed two-story addition to be located within the footprint of the existing sun deck would have a setback to the high water mark of 48 feet. Therefore, a variance request of 4 feet has been submitted for the committee's consideration. Just want to note, Mr. Chairman, that the application sketch shows 2 other additions to the existing dwelling. Neither of those require the minor variance because they fully comply with the provisions of the municipality's zoning bylaw. Notice of this application was provided on October 29th in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. And Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the notice requirements of the Planning Act have been satisfied. In response to the notice of this hearing, the township received 2 comments as follows. We have an email dated November 3rd from the Public Works Department indicating they have no objections, and an email dated October 29th from the Building Department also indicating that they have no objections or concerns with the application. Mr. Chairman, you do have a detailed planning report dated November 9th in your agenda with respect to this matter, and it's at pages 188 to 195 of your agenda. The report again reviews all the relevant plans and policies with respect to the application and the analysis with respect to the 4 tests of section 45 of the Planning Act are provided on page 8 of the report or page 195 of your agenda. Mr. Chairman, based on our analysis of the relevant policies and plans, our site inspection of the subject property, it's our opinion the application meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and as such, we would have no objections or concerns with the committee approval of the application. Mr. Chairman, I'm certainly willing to answer any questions that the committee or members of the public might have.
Thank you very much, and Mr. Brown. And is the applicant or his agent here? The owner, okay. We'll bring the owner on.
Hi, it's Greg Stevens here, 1520 Live Oak Drive, Mississauga, Ontario, L5E2X3. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. And I have to ask, is there anyone else here wishing to support or opposition to this application? And I see there's none. Are there questions from the members? Seeing no questions, I'll read this. Moved by member Bosworth, second by member Quinn. Be it resolved that application A4520 Stevens to permit the construction of a 2-story addition to an existing dwelling on an existing sun deck to be 48 feet at the closest point from the high water mark, as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision, is hereby approved. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
reasons, Mr. Chair, I think it's minor, and the staff report indicated that it's a well-treed lot. So this addition, I don't think will make a big impact.
Okay. I don't think there's any new business or anything else to report, so I will read the next motion, which is moved by Member Creaser, second by Member Quinn. Be it resolved that the meeting adjourned at 11:22 a.m. All those in favor? Okay, just waiting for the last one.
Thank you,
very
Mr.
much.
Chairman, members of the committee. We'll be chatting again, I would imagine. Thank you.
Are we allowed to have a little chat about something, or does it have to happen within the meeting itself?